It's now been 3 weeks since North Carolina lost to Alabama in the Sweet 16 and still no word from RJ Davis. What's going on?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, April 18th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. This guy over here is Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes. And for those of you listening, you need to get over to YouTube quickly and see this suit and tie this man has, or shirt and tie this man has on from Milligan's athletics banquet on Wednesday evening. The Buffies, is that what it's called, Coach?
Correct, yep.
I love it. So, Coach, just looking so spiffy. Way to go. So proud of you. Folks, you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there, as well as the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Look, I admit it, I have a competitive side, and that competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Coach, I love Monopoly. Always want to get Boardwalk and what Park Place, is that the other big one there? So great stuff. Love that they're one of our sponsors. Coming up on the show today, why haven't we heard from RJ Davis? What's going on there? Coach and I are going to play a game in segment 2, and we're going to call it Build That Roster. It's going to be awesome and a lot of fun. Make sure you hang out with us for that. And then we're going to look at the tricky nuances of roster construction in the transfer portal era, how you go about doing that. So, Coach, let's start with the ACC Player of the Year, RJ Davis. The two big, last offseason, the two big linchpins that Carolina needed back were Armando Bacot and RJ Davis. They got them both. Obviously, I guess we would add a third in Caleb Love. Obviously, he went off to Arizona. This year, there is a pretty seemingly similar scenario where there are two big linchpins that Carolina really needs to get back. One of them is still RJ Davis, and the other is Harrison Ingram, along with Elliot Cadeau. I guess we should say him as well, but there's just been kind of a more assumption that he's going to stay for round 2, whereas at this point, we're already thinking about what are RJ and Harrison going to do. And so, Coach, we talked about Harrison Ingram earlier in this week and kind of where things are at for him right now, but I want to have a similar conversation today about RJ Davis. And I'll just start by asking you a big picture conversation about it. Why, in your opinion, have we heard literally nothing publicly, at least, from RJ Davis?
I think there's, good thoughts and bad thoughts. I mean, my good thoughts are.
Can we have just good thoughts? Just good thoughts.
Let's say good thoughts. Good thoughts are, hey, he's just being patient. Maybe he's already made a decision, but he's talked to the staff and said, hey, I want to wait till this period of time to be able to make it, a public announcement. But I think the staff probably has a pretty good idea already what's going on. I did text with Brad Frederick a little bit today. I'm not trying to find out stuff. I don't want to be that guy that says, hey, tell me what's going on so I can go report it. But it's got to be incredibly frustrating for them to see recruiting become free agency, essentially what it is, to the highest bidder. But I think there's part of it where he wanted to make a calculated decision. It may be the point that, Coach Williams always has great friends in the NBA. They could always give great feedback about where they, the players would possibly be drafted. Usually no higher than this or no lower than that. So the guys could make good decisions. Maybe that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for an NBA exec to say for sure. Maybe they've been kind of maybe wishy-washy about really making a firm, spot for him. I don't know. And hopefully that's from a positive perspective. I think that's kind of where my thoughts have been. From the negative, maybe he's already, just waiting and just for the perfect time to say, hey, I'm going to test the waters. I've signed an agent and I'm going. But I really don't think that that's what it is right now.
Yeah, because, Coach, if that's what it was, I feel like we would have an announcement already, right?
Exactly. And again, in my mind, he may say, hey, I'm going to at least go through the NBA process. Harrison did that as a freshman. I think that's good. You get a chance to go talk to people and see people and interview with people. It's like no different than, interviewing for a job. Anytime you have a chance to interview for a job, it helps you prepare for the next time. So maybe that's part of the process too. But I am a little surprised. 3 weeks gone by, we haven't heard anything about RJ.
Because, Coach, I'm right with you with both Harrison and RJ. I think they both should do that. Go and test the process. As you said, if literally the person you're trying to work for is saying, hey, why don't you come hang out with us and we'll tell you what you need to do to get better so you can come work for us, sign me up every day of the week. I would love that. But even if that's the case, why wouldn't RJ make an announcement about that already? Like that, because that to me feels like a no-brainer. And I think for both he and Harrison, if it were me, I would be saying, I'm entering my name in the 2024 NBA draft, and I'm maintaining my eligibility to be able to come back to the University of North Carolina. That to me feels like the no-brainer of it all. And that's why it's a little confusing, Coach, frankly, with both of these guys, because that seems like the logical and natural path. And it's why, like, I'm with you. My head goes to a lot of really good places, and my head goes to a lot of really dark places as well. And then I have to pull myself out of that pit. And from messages I'm getting these past 3 weeks from the Carolina fan base, I know a lot of you listening and watching out there feel the exact same. Like literally every morning right now, Coach, I get up, and you've seen it in the Discord as well. Like it's a good day to maybe get some news, and it just keeps not happening. So, I mean, and Coach, it's one of those things where it feels like at some point it's just going to drop out of thin air, and it's like, oh, we got to go. We got to talk about it. Let's have some news. So, Coach, I don't know what to do. I feel stuck.
Here's one of the greatest quotes I've heard from a coaching perspective. Coach Williams used to say, in recruiting, yes and no are good answers. The maybe is the worst answer because you don't know where you stand. Yes, no, you know exactly where to move next. You have a path. But I'm in the same situation right now. We got 2 kids we're waiting for, and the waiting's, Tom Petty, the waiting's the hardest part. It really is. It's just it's paralyzing for you in your job because you go to the office, you sit down and say, I don't know where to go. I don't know which direction of what I need to do today because if they say yes, I'm done. And if they say no, I got a lot of work to do and it really, really fast. So it's really, really tough on the coaching staff right now. And hopefully something will pop up pretty soon.
And that's the thing, particularly in basketball. Like it's a little different when it's football because you got 22 spots on offense and defense you got to fill out. With RJ and with Harrison, that's 40% of your starting lineup. Literally one dude can make or break your team, right? And so I think that's part of it too is, and look, RJ and Harrison get this. They're not trying to hamstring the coaching staff. They're not trying to hamstring the program. They're doing what they ought to be able to do, and that's take the time they need to take to make a decision. And so here, neither Coach nor I, folks, saying that we're upset or frustrated that the process is taking a long time. That I want them to take all the time they need to make the best decision for themselves. But it's just hard in the waiting. I think that's what we're recognizing and saying. While Carolina has some other positions of need that Coach and I talked about last week that they know they need to go out and fill in this day and age of the transfer portal, that maybe, Coach, I love that comment from Coach Williams. That's brilliant and so spot on because it's in the waiting that if you need a 2-guard, there's 2 guards being snatched up and Carolina needs to go get one. If Carolina needs a power forward, and whether that's in the Harrison Ingram small ball power forward mold or not, if he's out, Carolina needs to go get one, Coach. If you're the coaching staff right now, how would you handle that side of it? Would you get RJ insurance and Harrison insurance? Do you need to wait? Like, what's the best way to go about that delicate dance?
I think you still have to go ahead and line up guys. You have to have them visit. You have to have guys that you're still connecting with on a daily basis. Just because we have 2 guys we're waiting on right now doesn't mean we're not recruiting anymore. Doesn't mean we're not talking to people. What you don't want to do is get somebody to commit and then RJ stays and then that person then decommits. And there's just so much still movement that can happen. It feels late, but it's still pretty early in the process. I mean, we still got lots of time. It'll go fast, but you still got to do some work. You still got to have guys on campus. You still got to continue to line up names and it sounds weird. You got to get your money set and your NIL money to be able to make those deals happen when it's time to go.
Shouts to TJ Beisner and the Secondary Break Club and all the work they're doing as part of this too. We got to remember that how the NIL collective factors into all of this. And so, man, and so, Coach, I want to just end this moment by saying kind of the sentiment I was getting to a minute ago. Just our best thoughts to RJ and his family, and to Harrison and his family, and everyone close around them as they go through this process, because it truly is life-altering decisions, right? This is not something to be made flippantly, and I think we would all do well, myself included, Coach included, to continue to remember that. Now, Carolina is thick in the mix with multiple other transfer portal commitments at other positions. If Carolina gets those, how should we feel about the roster? Coach and I are going to play a game of Build That Roster coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Yahoo Finance. Hey, wouldn't it be great if you could see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts with one hub and access the expert analysis you need to lend to your entire portfolio with confidence. I used to try and do this all on my own with like my own Excel spreadsheet, bringing stuff in. So much time, so much trouble, so much difficulty. And a buddy of mine, he was like, Isaac, you got to check out Yahoo Finance. I use it to keep track of all my stuff. It's awesome. So I tried it out and I've never looked back. Legitimately, I love it so much. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. Once again, the number one financial destination. That's yahoofinance.com. Last week on the show, when Coach Rob was on with me, we talked about what holes in the roster Carolina still needed to fill ahead of the 24-25 season. None of those have been filled yet. However, there has definitely been movement in the right direction. If you've been keeping tabs with the show all week long or on social media, you've heard and seen a lot of those names. As a reminder, let me catch us up on where things stand right now. If nobody else leaves, transfers, goes to the NBA, whatever, 9 of the 13 scholarships are currently accounted for. And again, that could change at literally a moment's notice. But as of today, there's 2 fifth-year guys, RJ Davis, Jalen Withers, 1 senior, Harrison Ingram, 1 junior, Jalen Washington, 2 sophomores, Elliot, Cadeau, and Zayden High, and 3 freshmen, Ian Jackson, Drake Powell, and James Brown, Now, if you want to start thinking about these guys that we've been talking about and how they might add to the mix, we know that Cade Tyson is coming to Chapel Hill this weekend. Again, as a reminder, he was at Tennessee last weekend, so that kind of puts Coach Rob between a rock and a hard place. It's been confirmed that the Carolina coaching staff did go to Nashville to meet with him this week, so that's a good and positive sign. That would be the sharpshooting small forward that Carolina needs. And then at this point, our best understanding is that Carolina is in the mix right now for 3 bigs. Jonas Aidoo from Tennessee, ironically enough, who he is visiting Baylor this weekend, Cliff Omoruyi from Rutgers, and Danny Wolf from Yale. So, Coach, I want to play a hypothetical game called Build That Roster. And in this game, we're going to pretend that Cade Tyson comes. And, Coach, I want to give you the opportunity to pick any one of those 3 bigs to be your anchor in the post. Who would you like to go with?
In the post, it's to me, I got to see Jonas Aidoo more than the other 2 guys. I haven't seen Wolf play at all. And Omoruyi I've seen very, very little. I like Aidoo. I like his body type. I like the way he runs. I got to see him play in person twice. Okay. Once in an inter-squad scrimmage, and was really super impressed with I was closer to the floor and could actually see the game a little bit more. The other game I saw was just half of a game and a blowout that we were actually working. That's right. So we got to run the gate and then run in and watch some of the game. But I love his size. I love his ability to run up and down the floor. He's got a nice mid-range game. He's not a three-point shooter like Danny Wolf. He's not going to step out and shoot that 3. But he gives that size, and and more than anything, the toughness that we need a rebounder. You got to finish that possession. And again, I know a lot of people like Omoruyi. I just haven't seen him enough.
Sure.
But if I had a choice right now, I'd go with Aidoo.
Okay, so Coach, let's add Cade Tyson and Jonas Aidoo to your roster. That gives you 11, the 9 currently on the roster plus Tyson and Aidoo. Out of those 11, Coach, who would you, I mean, this is Thursday, April 18th. We got months, but it's a fun game to play. Today, who would be your starting 5 out of that 11?
Me personally, I think I slide Harrison down to the 3.
Ooh, okay.
So I would end up having, Elliot at the 1, RJ at the 2, Harrison at the 3. I'd love to see Jalen Washington healthy and being able to do the things that he's doing. When he's healthy, he can score, he can run, he can do some things. He's a special talent when he's healthy. I'd love to see him at the 4, and then I'd have Aidoo at the 5. But I think that's a legit lineup. It's a big lineup.
That's a big lineup.
3, 3, 4, and 5. It's big, but then you got the 2 guards that I think are really special. So that would be first day of practice. That would be my first squad for first day.
Coach, I haven't put that lineup together, but man, thinking of what Harrison's done at the 4, if he could translate some of that down to the 3, and if Jay Wash is, I mean, Coach, here's going to be the pushback. Let me just ask it to you on that.
Yeah.
People are going to say, and I've said, I've heard myself say this, Jay Wash isn't laterally mobile enough to defend stretch or small ball 4s. Push back on that for me.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that if he's healthy, his development, he's going to have to do that. So he's got 6 months right now, 4 months, whatever, before the season's really going to start. He's got time to be able to work on those type of things. He hasn't been able to do that because I don't think he's been healthy. His knee's still not great. But I think over the time from now till the season starts, he's going to have to develop that. If he can't, again, that's first day of practice. That's not first game.
Sure.
But if he, then, you may look at Drake Powell, unbelievable defender, great athlete. Is he going to be ready first day to be able to step in and play those minutes? He might be able to because he's that good. If you want to get another shooter in there and go Cade Tyson and be able to have it more like they did this year with a wing who can really shoot it, maybe that's what you go to, and then slide Harrison back to the 4. So there's, again, the great thing about it is you have options of guys who can really play. I think Ian Jackson is special.
I do too.
I don't think he's somebody who's going to come and watch very long. I think he's coming to play. He expects to play. He's been great on the biggest stage, and he's going to expect to play. So then maybe you slide, RJ Moore over to the 1 at some point, allow him to play some 2. There's all kinds of options. Maybe he becomes the guy at the 3, and you slide Harrison back to the 4. And, those 3 guards, boy, there's a lot of points and a lot of explosions with those 3 guys. Be really hard to figure out who you're going to guard. So those are some options as well. But I think it's just we're not as deep at the big spots as I'd like us to be, and still think we need to find somebody else to be there. But
yeah, because even with bringing in those, like if it's Tyson and Aidoo in our hypothetical game here, you still got 2 scholarships left. We don't know if Coach Davis will use 0, 1, or 2 of those, but there are options with it. But Coach, I just hearing you talk about that, I just got giddy. I think I got some little goosebumps a little bit because the options, the matchup capabilities, the whatever team we're facing, and Coach Davis has shown a willingness to do this. I'm going to match up in a way that most benefits our team in this game. Not to mess with things, but he's willing to do that. So, Coach, with what that starting lineup you gave me of Elliot, RJ, Harrison at the 3, Jay Wash at the 4, and Jonas Aidoo at the 5, that would give you a 6-person bench right now that includes Jalen Withers, Zayden High, Cade Tyson, Ian Jackson, Drake Powell, and James Brown. Does that bench have what you need to complement your starting 5?
I still think I need one more guard.
Okay.
I think I need a backup point guard, somebody who can just be solid. But everybody else, there's pieces. I think James Brown fills Big James Conquo's kind of his role, at least to start with. I think James is probably better than he is already, but I think he still needs a little bit of time to be able to play. Drake Powell's going to play. Ian Jackson's going to play.
That's right.
I think Zayden's going to have to fight for every single minute, and I think he's willing to do that. And I like Jalen Withers a lot.
Yeah.
And I just think he's got more potential. He's got more game that we just haven't seen yet. And I think with another year, another summer with the coaching staff, with being able to, I think part of it is the stage is just, I know he's played in the Smith Center, but the stage is different when you go to Carolina. And some guys just, it takes a little bit longer to adjust to that. But I think he can. I think it's going to be a special year for him. And I could see him maybe surprising some people with the minutes he plays this year.
And especially with Seth out the door, pending what we see from Ian and Drake, I would say that Jae'lyn Withers is the best athlete on the roster. Again, we'll see with Ian and Drake when they come in, but they need that from Jae'lyn Withers. They need it in a big way. Now, Coach, speaking of all this, speaking of maybe one more, obviously we're getting ahead of ourselves on even assuming you get one of those bigs or Cade Tyson in, but roster construction has proven to be a very tricky and nuanced business in this day and age. Just how exactly is it? Do you make the pieces all fit together in just the right way with just the right blend of talent? We're going to answer that question in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monopoly Go. I've been told that I'm a pretty competitive person, and I know the man sitting beside me here on this screen is a very competitive person. He's a head coach of an NAIA basketball school. Of course he is. Well, we all have that competitive side, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. A great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but on hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up these cities that bring you big money. But the best part that I love about it is messing around with your friends when you're playing it. You can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly. But now you can also rob their vaults of riches to keep for yourself. And they've got leaderboards to show you who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. It's also my teammate side, because you can team up with friends and people all over the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game, join your friends, download Monopoly Go right now free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, Coach and I just played a rousing round of Build That Roster. And now we want to talk about how tough that really truly is to do right now. I mean, it is a completely different age where we talked about it all last offseason. High school recruits are undervalued like never before. It's wild at this highest level of the sport, I should say. There is this microwaved relationship building style as opposed to the crock pot that most people, including Hubert Davis, would probably prefer. But Coach, as I look at this, one of the issues is that this is not just a hunt for the best individual players. Like, you're the best center, I want you. You're the best shooting guard, I want you. If that was true, Coach, because of NIL, whoever had the deepest pockets would win the national championship every single year, as you said earlier, with this whole kind of essential free agency that we're doing. So, Coach, how on earth do you figure out how to construct a roster out of the portal in such a short time frame?
I think you have to dig really deep into your culture of who you are as a program and who you are as a coach and coaching staff. I would try to sell what my philosophy is, but to be able to sell it, I have to know it. I have to know who we are and what's our why. And once you are able to answer that to your recruits' families, especially to mom. Mom wants to know why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to take care of her kid. And that's so big today. And once you get that, then you've got to figure out how you can build relationships with the new guys, with the guys that are returning. The whole NIL stuff of who's getting what money and that. I think Carolina was one of the forerunners in making sure that everybody got something. So you didn't have one guy getting a ton of money and somebody else getting nothing. They'd be able to build and that's part of the culture, the Carolina way. They're going to make sure that guys are all treated well. They can't always maybe get treated equally, but they're all going to be treated fairly. So even the guys who aren't going to play a whole lot, they're still going to get a taste of that NIL money and make them feel like they're part of what that bigger picture really is. That's really hard. And I don't know how they can do it, but it's 1 year teams based, what used to be program building is now 1 year building.
Yeah. And Coach, I don't mind admitting I grieve the loss of that, right? Of that holdover, that consistency from year to year, really growing to know and love a young man and his family and whatever over the course of 4 years. And we still get that occasionally with an Armando. I mean, good grief. That young man is in my heart for the rest of my life. Same with the RJ, right? Like it's just the way some of that is. But it's funny because I have fallen in love with Harrison Ingram. I love that dude, man. But I would have loved to have had him for 4 years, and it's just a different way of doing things. And so like a program that I feel like is doing this well, figuring out these complementary pieces is like a UConn. Because when I looked at UConn's roster trying to defend their national championship from 2023, I didn't see it, Coach, at the beginning of the year, if we're being honest. But you look at how Cam Spencer comes in, and he's like this absolute dude from outside, and he gets to the rim, and he's like Danny Hurley Jr. on the court. And it's like, that's what teams are going to be trying to do now all over the nation. It's not just about the 5 best individuals. It's about the best 5, the best group of 5 that you can get out there. Coach, would you just talk about that philosophical difference of 5 best versus best 5?
Yeah, so if you're Danny Hurley, you're not necessarily out there recruiting the best as much as you're recruiting guys who fit who he is and who he wants to. He wants guys he can recruit that are going to be coachable, but hard coachable. He wants guys he can yell and scream, and he's going to cuss at them, and he's going to just rip them every day. But then at the end of practice, they're the same guys coming up and giving him a hug and telling him he loves them. And he needs certain guys to be able to do that. Just like, Tony Bennett needs certain type of guys to play his system. He's looking for a type of kid that he can mold and coach and be part of what he's going to do. And not every kid's willing to do that. Not everybody wants to get yelled at every day. But he's got to find those kids that are obviously talented enough, but also mentally tough enough to be able to do those type of things. And I think that's what Coach Davis is trying to do right now. He's trying to get kids that fit the culture of what he's trying to do. He still has to get the most talented kids because he's at the University of North Carolina.
That's right.
They've got to be super talented. But he also wants kids that are going to buy into being selfless, checking their ego at the door. There were some really talented teams this year that way underachieved because you had kids still worried about getting theirs, getting their NIL money, getting whatever. They're thinking about whatever's the next step instead of, hey, we just need to win games. You still have kids that would rather be first-team All-American and get a chance to get drafted more than winning a conference championship. And I think that's what Danny's found is he's found guys that are just bought into just winning. Doesn't matter who gets what, just to win the game.
And I feel like that culture is alive at North Carolina. We heard about that chemistry and saw it all season long. And it's not just talk. You see it in how excited Elliot Cadeau gets when somebody else just has a ridiculous shot. You see it in how excited the guys were for Cormac Ryan when he dropped 31 on Duke in the regular season finale. But the key is, as you said, it's a cultural thing of how do we now translate that year after year after year with the revolving door of collegiate athletics in 2024. So, Coach, that's going to be a conversation we're going to have to continue to have probably pretty regularly here is as guys come in, are they willing? Will they sacrifice? Do they care about, as you said, winning more than, box score looking immediately after the game, right? Unless they're box score looking at their buddies and what everyone's doing. I can get behind that.
Yeah, I think it comes with the leadership too. When you have a leader like Harrison, a leader like RJ, so if you have guys come in and they act in a certain way, you have to have somebody on the floor, not a coach, but you need somebody on the floor to say, hey, we don't do that this way. No, we don't. That's not. It's just different here. You've got to be different. And it has to come from the players. Coaches can say it. Kids aren't going to listen as much as if it's a teammate. So I think that as much as we want RJ to come back and Harrison to come back for their talent, their leadership is going to be just as important, in my opinion.
Your opinion is spot on, Coach. So say it with fact and vim and vigor, because I'm right with you. Folks, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. Thanks so much for joining us. Great conversation with Coach Rob. I'd love to hear about your team that you put together in segment 2 as Coach and I were building our rosters. Great stuff there. And I said building our rosters, and I guess I never really said mine. I guess you'll just have to guess who I would have had. Folks, if you haven't subscribed to the show on audio and video, please do that. So simple to do. We don't want you to miss an episode ever. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, you're missing out. come on in. The water's fine. The link for that is in the show notes. It's free to join, free to be a part of. As always, it's a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be right back with you tomorrow on Friday, heading into the weekend. Maybe, hopefully, some news. But until then, peace.